Joining us once again from Madison, Wisconsin is Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders, thank you again for being with us tonight. Appreciate it. So, sir, you tweeted today that it was, quote, shameful. That was the word you used when Donald Trump said this to my colleague Chris Matthews here on MSNBC.
How do you ban abortion? How do you actually do it?
Well, you know, you'll go back to a position like they had where people will perhaps go to illegal places.
Yeah.
But you have to ban it. The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
10 cents, 10 years,
I don't know. That I don't know.
After the word spread that Donald Trump had made those remarks today about abortion, that a woman needs to be punished if she seeks an abortion, and an abortion should be banned, you said today that was shameful. What is shameful about it?
Well, I think it is shameful is probably understating that position. First of all, to me, and I think to most Americans, women have the right to control their own bodies, and they have the right to make those personal decisions themselves. But to punish a woman for having an abortion is beyond comprehension. I just, you know, one would say, what is in Donald Trump's mind, except we're tired of saying that. I don't know what world this person lives in. So obviously, from my perspective, and if elected president, I will do everything that I can to allow women to make that choice and have access to clinics all over this country so that if they choose to have an abortion, they will be able to do so. The idea of punishing a woman, that is just, you know, beyond comprehension.
You know, Mr. Trump is making headlines on this issue today, obviously because of what he said. It's sort of, you know, taken the media day by storm. That said, I think there may be a case to be made, and I'd love your response to this, your perspective on this, that his opponent, Senator Ted Cruz, is more extreme on this issue. And I say that in part because one of his national co-chairs on his Pro-Lifers for Cruz coalition is a man named Troy Newman, who once wrote a book saying that abortion providers should be executed. Is Ted Cruz even further out on this issue than Donald Trump is?
Well, you know, you're living in crazy world there. And that is why, you know, the Republican Party, if they continue in this direction, will be, as I mentioned a moment ago, a fringe party. Look, they have nothing to say. All they can appeal is to a small number of people who feel very rabid about a particular issue, whether it's abortion or maybe whether it's gay marriage. That is their constituency. They have nothing of substance. You know, you mentioned a moment ago, Rachel, that the media is paying attention to Donald Trump. Duh, no kidding. Once again, every stupid remark will be broadcast, you know, for the next 5 days. But what is Donald Trump's position on raising the minimum wage? Well, he doesn't think so. What is Donald Trump's position on wages in America? Well, he said in a Republican debate he thinks wages are too high. What's Donald Trump's position on taxes? Well, he wants to give billionaire families like himself hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks. What is Donald Trump's position on climate change? Oh, he thinks it's a hoax perpetrated, shock of all shock, by the Chinese. You know, on and on it goes. But because media is what media is today, any stupid, absurd remark made by Donald Trump becomes the story of the week. Maybe, just maybe, we might want to have a serious discussion about the serious issues facing America. Donald Trump will not look quite so interesting in that context. Are
you suggesting, though, that the media shouldn't be focusing on his call to potentially jail women who have abortions, because that's another stupid comment?
I am saying that every day he comes up with another stupid remark, absurd remark. Of course it should be mentioned, but so should Trump's overall position. How much talk can we hear about climate change, Rachel? And Trump? Any?
He said that he cares more about nuclear climate change, which is a term that he's invented.
Nuclear climate change?
That's what he comes up with when he's asked on the subject.
I see. All that I'm saying is that Trump is nobody's fool. He knows how to manipulate the media, and you say an absurd thing and the media is all over it. And my concern is that today in America, you got millions of people who are struggling economically. They want to know how we're going to expand the middle class. Overwhelmingly, people think we should raise the minimum wage. Vast majority of people think climate change is real and a threat to our planet. They want to do something about that. What do? Vast majority of the people think the wealthiest people in this country should start paying their fair share of taxes. But if we don't discuss those issues, it creates the climate for people like Donald Trump to do much better than he really has a right to do.
Senator, you have been a fierce critic of the influence of the wealthy and big business on our politics, not just on who gets their way, but who sets the agenda. But as Republican legislatures and governors have recently been weighing new laws that are discriminatory, particularly against LGBT people in North Carolina, in Georgia, Missouri, and Indiana, big business, including Bank of America today in North Carolina, has weighed in strongly against those discriminatory laws. Do you think those businesses should butt out of those issues? Is it inappropriate for them to try to wield political influence, even when they do it in a progressive way?
Well, you know, look, they have, when we look at politics in America, you have CEOs of major corporations who have children who are gay, who have friends who are gay, whose wives or daughters have had abortions. They live in the real world, and they're responding to this type of very right-wing reactionary policies. And I understand that, and I appreciate that. When I talk about money in politics, what I talk about is the Koch brothers and billionaires spending hundreds of millions of dollars along with Wall Street to create a situation where politicians will be elected who represent the wealthy and the powerful.
On one of the issues that the Koch brothers and their networks have supported in a way that I think has been stealthy but very effective is an issue concerning veterans. And you were the former chairman of the Veterans Committee in the Senate. And in that capacity, you worked closely with Senator John McCain on a number of issues. He's praised you in this campaign. You've talked about your ability to work with him on veterans issues. But right now, Senator McCain is actually pushing a proposal to effectively privatize large parts of the VA, which is something that the Koch brothers and their network have pushed. What's your response to that? Do you have plans to try to stop him on that, particularly given your past relationship?
Of course, categorically disagree. Look, what you have is a group called the Concerned Veterans of America. They appear on and have appeared on stations like CNN time and time again without being identified as being funded by the Koch brothers. And what they are doing is taking legitimate criticisms of the VA and blowing them up and then coming to the conclusion that at least partially, if not totally, we should privatize the VA. Look, this is an issue that I have dealt with, and what I will tell you is, having talked to the American Legion and the VFW and the DAV and the Vietnam vets and virtually every veterans organization, what they tell you is that once veterans get into the VA system, the care is pretty good. It is pretty good. Problem has been getting into the VA system, and also legitimately got people who live 50, 60, 100 miles away, 200 miles away from a VA facility. Should they have to travel 200 miles to get their health care? The answer is no, they should not. But the idea of privatizing the VA would be, in my mind, a huge mistake and a great disservice to the men and women of this country who put their lives on the line to defend us.
Do you feel like the way that veterans have advocated for themselves, the way that's changed since the Vietnam era and through to today's generation of Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, do you feel like there's any lessons there in terms of bringing about social change in this country? You talk about a political revolution and people getting their voices heard, particularly people who otherwise get boxed out of a system stacked against them. Have veterans, in a way, sort of shown us a way around some of those structural barriers to political change?
I think you have organizations that do a very good job, and obviously I know them all because I was chairman of the committee, who represent veterans' interests. What I don't think we have at this point is the kind of grassroots activism at the local level that we should be having. So there's a lot of good groups in Washington, the DAV, the VFW, the American Legion, the Vietnam vets, and others who are really there, who are fighting for veterans' rights. But I would like to see more grassroots activism take place.
One last question for you, Senator. I know your time is tight today, and it is about your prodigious fundraising. After those huge wins this weekend in those 3 caucus states, we know that within something like 24 hours, your state had raised $4 million. You have shown an incredible ability to tap large numbers of people for small amounts of money that really, really add up. And you've got essentially infinite resources to stay in this campaign as long as you want, no matter what else happens. I have to ask, though, if you have thought about whether or not you will at some point turn your fundraising ability toward helping the Democratic Party more broadly, to helping their campaign committees for the House and the Senate and for other elections.
Well, right now, Rachel, as you are more than aware, our job is what I'm trying to do is to win the Democratic nomination. And I'll tell you something, I never in a million years, Rachel, would have believed that we could have received over 6 million individual campaign contributions, averaging $27 apiece. A very different way of raising money than Secretary Clinton has pursued. So right now, we are enormously appreciative. You're right. Without that type of support, we would not be where we are right now. We would not be able to continue this campaign to the Democratic convention. So I am just blown away and very appreciative of all of the kind of support that we have gotten from grassroots America. Obviously, your priority is the nomination, but I mean, you raised Secretary Clinton there. She has been fundraising both for the nomination and for the Democratic Party. At some point, do you foresee a time during this campaign when you'll start doing that? Well, we'll see. I mean, right now, again, our focus is on winning the nomination. Secretary Clinton has access to kinds of money that we don't, and that we're not even interested in. So let's take it one step at a time, and the step that we're in right now is to win the Democratic nomination.
Vermont Senator, candidate for the Democratic presidential nomination, Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator, thank you so much for your time tonight. I know you're stretched very thin. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rachel. Take care.
All right.